Do you like movies and games also? Listen, so much more they all know. Vice, Pyro, Lotus, and friends, welcome to Corrective Consciousness.
Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 84, the podcast about our lives and love of pop culture. I'm your host, VyseTheBold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And PyroJackFrost.
Back with the OG3.
Yay.
It seems like a lot of people actually really liked our previous episode with everybody on. I got some favorable feedback. I don't know whether you did on the YouTube.
It was an extravaganza.
Comments.
I guess that means that every Sunday from now on we have to all hang out.
Yeah, we should probably do that.
I'm okay with that, but it would be inconvenient, but I would...
Yeah, that would be amazing, but it's like, have fun making a 3-hour trip every time, or we make a 3-hour trip to you.
I like that one better.
Yeah.
You come to my place every weekend.
There we go.
I would love for that to be feasible.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why the podcast exists, because I want to keep in contact with you guys. So, I just want to thank everybody for the positive feedback. But we have a normal ass episode for you.
I hate
nothing special
episodes.
At all about it.
Oh, a normal ass episode. Oh.
It's not voluptuous at all. But why don't you get going and get us going here, Pyro?
Alright, so I'll do my usual mobile game update. I'm still playing Granblue, still playing the new Dissidia. Like I said last time, Granblue is just a grind now. It's getting kind of boring, but I feel like I've sunk so much time into it. I kind of feel like
that feeling, yeah.
That plus, like, when I was in Japan, I bought a lot of Granblue merchandise. So it's like I need to play for at least a year.
Oh, that's right. Wasn't your trip to Japan, like, coincidentally perfectly timed regarding some special event with Granblue?
No, it just so happened that there was a pop-up store that was having Granblue stuff on sale.
Oh, that's okay.
I didn't get anything from there, I don't think, but just the fact that I bought so much Granblue stuff.
Yeah.
And I do like the game, but I'm just playing the normal updates when they come every week, doing my daily stuff, which really only takes a half an hour or so every day, but half an hour to an hour. But, yeah, I'm still going. Once I get over the next hump, we'll see if that changes.
Sure.
And like I said last week too, Dissidia is really fun because there's no stamina in that game, and they give you a lot of stuff, it feels like, so... I already have 6 characters that are at max level. I mean, you have 3 characters in a team, and granted, when I say max level, there's still like a second level, which is like you could kind of say their rank, so they have a level under rank.
Oh, it's kind of like, I guess, like Fire Emblem, where once you hit level 20, you rank up so you can really go to level 40, that kind of thing?
Kind of. So, like, they gain levels through experience, like most RPGs.
Yeah.
And then you can collect, like, crystals through certain battles, and you can use those to rank them up.
Okay.
So, like, separate stat gain, but still.
Oh, so is it almost like... this might be getting a little further from it, but is it then like Pokemon, where you only have 1 level cap, but you can evolve with a stone if you want to, or something like that?
So, I'm trying to find, like... It's really hard to find for me to think of something else that's similar.
Yeah.
Because you don't need levels in one to gain levels in the other.
Okay.
They're both like parallel levels that you can gain based on stuff. So
maybe it's like the job system in Final Fantasy, where like you could level up a job.
It's like Final Fantasy Tactics, where your characters have levels and then job levels. It's kind of like that.
Okay.
But you can't change jobs.
This is, to clarify, this is the cell phone game, not the...
Correct.
Not the PS4
The PS4
game,
game is not nearly as fun.
Okay. Really?
Well, I tell a lot of people that like the gameplay is still the same, although it's like 3-on-3 instead of 1-on-1. But there's not much else going for it other than battling. So
that there's no single player and progression, right? It's just like if you're into multiplayer, you're gonna love it, but otherwise there's not much core game,
In the handheld games, there was like a board game kind of aspect to the single player where there's a board that you go across. Granted, each like space you move to is either a battle or story, but there seemed to be progression, plus your characters gain levels and you got equipment for them. There you could change their movesets out based on moves you unlocked. And there's also another mode you can play, which you call like a labyrinth. So let's say there's a row of cards, and you can only see the first 3 at a time. And when you out of those 3, you get to pick one, and the rest are discarded. The cards could be something like Job, which could give you bonuses for that run through the labyrinth. There could be an item that you can equip to your characters because they all come in there with nothing. Other characters, so you could have people on your team, meaning if a character dies, then another person can replace them, whereas the person you go into, if they die, then you lose the labyrinth or battles. So there's a lot of things like that you could play, whereas in the new one, there is no levels, no equipment, no changing moves. Everyone has their moveset, that's it. And the only way to pass through the story is to play the game and unlock currency, which you can spend to see story scenes.
Yeah, I think we discussed this last week, where it's like, if you only care about the story, then you may as well just YouTube it, because there's no gameplay that's attached to it. So it's not like, oh, but you better appreciate the game if you worked your way up and then you saw what the gameplay led to. Like, that there is no gameplay leading to it. It's just random fight story.
Yeah, so it is an arcade game, so I have to say that. It was based on an arcade game, so whatever. But I was hoping for a little bit more like single-player type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So as it is now, if I want to play a Dissidia game, I'll either play the phone one, which is a normal RPG, or if I want to play one that has like the fighting system, I'll just turn on my PS Vita and play the Duodecium or whatever it was called.
Oh, by the way, speaking of the phone game, you pointed out that they don't have stamina bars. Was that a thing in previous Dissidias?
No, I'm just saying like most phone games where...
where you can only do X actions or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And this you could play all day if you wanted to.
That's pretty awesome, actually. That's quite refreshing.
Yeah, so other than that, in terms of still Final Fantasy, I've been keeping up with Final Fantasy IX. I'm on Disc 2. I'm almost halfway through the game. Not really much to update with that other than I'm still playing it. I've also... So I went to round 1 on Friday because I didn't have work. And I was playing Theatrhythm, and while I was playing, I'm like, I own Curtain Call for DS. Why am I spending so much money like going around 1 and playing? And it is fun because like you can unlock songs, and there's like a progression that you do there. But then I turn on Theatrhythm, and also it's different than the one on DS because it's kind of like dual stick instead of just the stylus.
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
it's a little different.
It's kind of like the difference between like the Groove Coaster on like the iPad versus the arcade version. I mean, it's different, you know.
Yeah, sometimes even if you don't have any new content, it's just kind of fun to play the arcade machine.
Yeah, and I will still play it when I go to the arcade. I'm not going to stop playing entirely.
Yeah.
But if I want to play Theatrhythm, I have the DS version. And I was looking on it, and there's like all the songs are there already anyway. Also, there's tons of DLC. I didn't even realize there's about like $60, $80 worth of DLC.
Wow.
Yeah, some of it isn't even Final Fantasy games. Like some of them is like Chrono Trigger and stuff like that.
Same with the arcade game. They started adding other Square Enix games in the arcade game. So it has like Chrono Trigger bosses. It has Romancing Saga, Saga Frontier, Secret of Mana.
I know. Curtain Call even has some of that DLC in it.
The only downside, and I'm saying this also realizing that I'm technically spending $1 every time I play at the arcade, but each song in DLC in the DS version is $1. So I had to be a little picky. Unless I'm willing to spend $80 to get everything, I have to be pretty picky on which songs I want to get.
Sure.
So that being said, I kind of was trying not to play 2 games at once, but I really wanted to play Rayman, so I bought Rayman Legends.
Oh, that one. Okay.
And I'm loving it. Like, I had to say I think that's one of my favorite platformers.
That's the new Rayman, right?
Yeah, that's the newest one.
Okay.
And if you don't know who Rayman is, he's a guy who has hands and feet but no limbs.
Yeah, he's got like floating gloves and floating shoes.
Kind of.
Well, he floats over the shoes, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because it's very audio based in the sense of there's lots of audio cues.
I love that.
And after there's every world has a final boss. After the final boss is another level, which is just very music oriented. The moves you do don't affect the story, but they make it whereas like when there's a certain instrument plays, you're supposed to jump, or like when another instrument plays, you're gliding across a rail. So I have to actually show you before like just talking about it, but it looks really cool. I showed my girlfriend the second world one because that's as far as I am, and it was okay. But I went back to the first one, and the first one is awesome. It's called like Castle Rock, and it's just like a bunch of guys rocking out, and at the end, Rayman is like on top of the boss that he defeated, like wailing on an air guitar.
Nice,
it's really cool.
Like it's like Double Dragon Neon. Both brothers just rock out on nothing for a little bit before the level ends.
If I remember, I will share with all of you I'll find the YouTube video for it. It's really cool.
Did you ever play Rayman Origins as well, or just Legends?
I platinumed it.
Okay, so the music levels in that are awesome too.
Yeah,
I really love them in both.
Actually, did you ever play?
I really like the.
Just real quick, I was going to ask, did you ever play the original Rayman, like on PS1?
I did, and I never got past the pirate stage because that game is hard as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about how it plays or whatever. The only thing I really was aware of was that it's like hand drawn and looks freaking gorgeous.
So it was really fun. And like the Rayman Origins is still hard. Like I was gonna say, there's some levels in it, like the run levels, where you're chasing after a treasure chest that's running away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and they can get really hard. But
They're
the thing
fun,
about Rayman's Origin and Legends is it's more forgiving in the sense of like if you die, there's like respawn points.
Sure.
You technically have unlimited lives, whereas in the original Rayman you had the normal at the time 5 lives or so.
Yeah. That was always frustrating because it's like, you're not at the arcade. Like, this is, it's like Donkey Kong Country where it's just like, oh, it's game over now. Do it again because. And it's like, all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm loving Rayman Legends. It's just, it makes me smile every single time I play it. I think that's what I really like about it, is there's a lot of not many games, like you turn it on and just the feel of the game makes you smile.
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty great.
Absolutely. Yeah. To me, it's Tombo 1. I love turning on that game.
Tombo is good too, yep.
Yeah. I love that. I used to play that at your house back in the day.
Yeah. I remember, I think I 100%ed that game too.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was fun.
It was a lovely game. I love that game.
It's really cool about Rayman Legends too because I was planning on buying the Origins as well because I wanted to play it again. But in Legends, you can unlock paintings that are called like Return to Origins levels, and they're more or less the same level. So you technically don't have to buy Origins, although it's a little different because in Legends you're rescuing these, like, they're called teensies, they're like little wizards, whereas in Origins you're rescuing lums, which are like the glowy things, so it's a little bit different.
Oh, that's familiar.
The general idea. The lums were in the regular Rayman as well.
Yeah, I think I first saw them at least in Rayman 2, which I know plays radically differently from anything else. It's like a 3D platformer.
Lums have been in it since the beginning. They're like glowing pixie type things that you're supposed to rescue.
Gotcha.
From the pirates or whatever.
A lot of people really love too. I know it came out for the Dreamcast and like a bunch of other systems.
Was that the first 3D one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it came out for the N64. It came out for the PS2. It came out for a ton of things. PC. But a lot of people love the Dreamcast version. I remember.
I may have played the N64 one for a little bit, but I really only played the original PlayStation 1 and the 2 newer ones. And I played the phone ones, which are actually pretty fun. The only downside
was a Rayman Run.
There's Rayman Run, there's Fiesta Run, and there's Rayman Adventure. So there's actually 3 mobile ones. They're pretty fun. The only downside of Adventure, so Fiesta Run and Rayman Run were ones where it's very like Rayman's running by himself, and you just tap or like swipe to do different moves at the right time. Whereas Rayman Adventures is more like a normal game. The only downside is it doesn't work with my pixels. It works on the pixel, but the screen ratio doesn't work. There's one level that I cannot click on because the health bar or like the life, whatever it is, covers it, so I can't tap on it. That's really
frustrating.
Yeah, but other than that, it was a fun game. I deleted it because of that. I kind of want to try to see it again. But other than that, I just wanted to mention a few things. I saw Black Panther, but as I have a feeling we won't be talking about that much because I don't think either of you have seen it yet.
Yeah,
But
no.
it was as good as everyone said it would.
Yeah, I've heard it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I finished watching Black Mirror, so my girlfriend and I were gonna binge watch it, but like after 2 episodes of Black Mirror, you kind of can't.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't want I haven't even seen any episodes, but I know that you do not want to binge watch that show.
There are some episodes that are feel good episodes, but they're very few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
But we finished watching that, and it was a pretty good ending. And the reason why we finished it is because I really wanted to start watching Altered Carbon. So we've been watching that. We're about 3 or 4 episodes in.
I heard that's really good too.
It's good. It's a lot more cerebral than I thought. They introduce like a lot of things into it, like a lot of words that you don't know what it means. So you kind of you have to pay attention and have to be thinking the whole time about like,
that's fair.
What is this? Like, what's going on? It's pretty cool. It's like a cyberpunk hard-boiled detective kind of thing, but the main character isn't actually a detective. So it's really cool.
You know what that reminds me of? Right down to the cyberpunk detective, but not really, is have you heard of the anime Ergo Proxy?
I've heard of it.
I've always wanted to watch that.
I saw like the first episode of it, and they dropped a lot of lingo that you just don't know what it means. And at the end of the episode, they just straight up give you definitions for some of the terms that were already used. Like, so here's what that was supposed to be.
There are words that they still haven't defined or like explained exactly what they mean. So, I mean, for all I know, they're not going to, which might be fine because in a way, it's like if someone watched a movie. Not that no one knows what the FBI is, but if someone watches a spy movie or like a movie that had the FBI in it and didn't know what the FBI was, they're not going to tell you what the FBI is in that movie.
Exactly. Like you should be able to at least kind of get what's going on. It's like Ico, where you understood literally none of what was said at any time because it was in another language, but you get the basic idea.
Yeah. So I think when I finish it, if they don't explain it, and I'm probably going to anyway, just read like a quick summary of the story just to make sure I understood everything that was going on.
Sure.
But other than that has been my past.
Yeah.
Like,
just
week.
One.
It's been a lot, actually.
One quick question. You said that you finished Black Mirror. Does that mean you caught up with it, or is Black Mirror done?
Well, it's so far there are 4 episodes out, and we've watched all 4. I don't know if they're making a 5th episode or not. I haven't actually checked.
Wait, episode or season?
Sorry, season 4.
Okay, sure. All right, and gotcha.
We watched all 4 seasons, and I'm not sure if they're making a 5th season or not.
Okay.
But yeah, that has been my week. So Lotus.
All right, here we go.
How has your week been?
Quite good. This has actually been far more like last week. I had almost nothing to talk about, but in terms of what I actually did. But this week, that's somewhat turned around. So first thing, just real quick. I haven't tried it or anything yet, but now that it's finally out, I was able to pick up the complete edition of Horizon Zero Dawn. So I look forward to...
did that come with the
that
DLC
winter DLC? Yeah.
Frozen Wastes.
Yes.
I haven't played that yet.
So I look forward to playing that like whenever, but I hear that game is just so good, so I'm pretty excited about it. And I saw a little bit of it at Vyse's place, and yeah, it definitely looked cool.
Oh, it's amazing. I've been looking to try to play it since I've moved, but like everything is still not set up the way I would want it. So
now, one thing was pretty rad. I went to Classic Game Junkie to pick up. Like I've been talking about this for several podcasts. I've been wanting to get my GameCube modded, and I've had questions about like when are you going to do another Resident Evil Let's Play? And I'm like, well, my GameCube's in the shop, so it's kind of like keeping me from this. I finally got my GameCube back. Well, I'll talk more about that specifically later. But I do want to point out one really cool thing that happens when I was at Classic Game Junkie. Another thing that I brought up a lot of time ago, this is before I started playing Eternal Ring. See, the reason I started streaming Eternal Ring, or playing it at all, was that I wanted to play Drakengard, and my disc was scratched. And I know that Classic Game Junkie has a machine where they can repair discs for you for like something like $2 or $3. So I was like, I'll just get it repaired there. But it's an hour away from me, so I wanted to wait until I had like a more pressing reason to go there. I don't want to drive an hour to spend $3 to clean a freaking disc. So I was like, well, I gotta play some other weird PS2 RPG, so, Eternal Ring it was. But what was really cool was that when I went to Classic Game Junkie, I was like, okay, I would like to pick up my GameCube. I'm going to go browsing around, and also please clean this disc. And so I gave it to the guy, And then he came back like a minute or two later, and he was like, no, this disc is just like beyond repair. Like, this thing is effectively garbage. Even if I put it through the cleaner, it will not help you. I'll see if I have another copy of Drakengard lying around. I'm like, okay. So what was really cool was that I checked the shelves and didn't see it, but it turned out that he had a disc-only copy of the game.
Which is fine in this case.
Yeah, for me, sure. So what was really cool of them, though, was he was like, here, I'll throw out your disc, and you could just have this, which was super cool of them. And it kind of made sense, because Drakengard is not like a rare and expensive game, so it's not in
not
high...
many people know about it.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, it's not exactly in high demand. As popular as Nier is, I don't know how many people know that it's connected to like one of the endings of Drakengard. Like, what? So what was interesting is that if I wanted to go out and find another copy, it's like $15-20, and that's in-box. You know, that's complete in-box. So I could easily do that, but it's like, oh man, now I gotta go spend $20. Meanwhile, from the guy at the store's perspective, because in-box copies are pretty cheap and easily accessible online, there's no way he's ever selling that disc. Like, nobody's gonna buy a disc-only copy of Drakengard, except for someone in my oddly specific situation. So it's just like, he's never gonna sell it. Fuck it, just take it. Like, that was really cool of him. So just shout out to Classic Game Junkie for continuing to be freaking amazing. So yeah, I'll talk about the GameCube thing a little later. Also, my Sentient Let's Play has finished for patrons.
Sentient.
Wait, you have a Let's Play that gains sentience?
Yeah, it's not good. You gotta run. So it's finished for patrons, and it's just started to go public. So if like at the time we're recording this, episode 1 is up. So by the time this podcast goes live, I think episode 3 will be up out of 6. It's a short Let's Play. But once again, this was that highly ambitious title I'd mentioned for the PS1 a while back, and it has all sorts of variables running through it. The game itself is short, but figuring out what to do will take you quite some time. Most people's experience with the game is not knowing what to do, and then the space station eventually blows up, and you're like, what do I do? Like, what do I do? So, this was something I kind of felt bad about from last week. Pyro, you had mentioned... I forgot the context of the conversation, but you had mentioned that a PS1 like memory card holds X blocks, and I was like, "Oh yeah,
I think it's 16, isn't it?
15 or 16."
No, yeah, I think you said 16, and I was like, "Oh, 15," and I'll bring that up in a second, and then I just didn't. I wanted to do that in the context of Sentient. Here's what I want to ask you guys, because at this point I have some experience with the PS1. Pretty much everything I've played on it, except for like Soul Blade, has been a Let's Play. So I haven't played that much stuff on the PS1, but everything I have has had one block of save data. There's a chance maybe 2 blocks, but I think it's been 1 block even for something like Parasite Eve. Now, obviously, there are games that take up more blocks, but...
Vagrant Story took up 2 or 3, I think.
I was just about to ask, have you played any of those games, and what are they, and how much? So
because Vagrant Story was really interesting because you had your main save, and then the stash that held like all of your other items.
So it's like Sonic Adventure 2 with your Chow data as a separate thing?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, that makes sense.
So there are a number of games that do have multiple save files.
Yeah.
One of them... you're not going to probably run into this, but sports games were the most common ones.
That makes sense.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's because you could save season data and stuff like that.
I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that makes sense.
And RPG Maker basically takes up a whole card.
That'll do it, yeah. Because you're making a freaking game and everything in it, yeah.
But, I mean, like, all things considered, you're probably not going to play that version of RPG Maker because there are much more like advanced versions on.
There's one on the PC, PS4, I think now. There's a new one.
You'd probably still do the PC ones other than consoles because you have more control over.
No, that makes sense, but like RPG Maker is like they're still coming out with new ones. Is my point.
There's Fighter Maker as well.
That's true.
Which would take up multiple.
Yeah. I remember Mr. Ryu had some fun with Fighter Maker 2, I think, in college, making some goofy stuff.
Yeah, I generally speaking, the vast majority of games are 1, and then there are outliers that have 2, and then there are further outliers that use multiple.
Yeah. Now here's my question, because like other than RPG Maker, which like you're making an entire game, I get that. what's the largest capacity you've seen for, like, a standard video game?
2.
2? And Pyro said, like, 2, maybe 3 for Vagrant Story. Because the reason I bring this up is Sentient. It's a short game, but it saves everything, including characters' relative positions and everything, because that stuff matters. So it takes up 6 blocks, which, like, really threw me off. So at best, you can have 2 saves on one memory card. Like, I don't know why you'd be making multiple save slots unless you're Let's Playing the game or whatever, if you want to, like, save in front of different endings or whatever, but the game itself may be proportionally small compared to others, but its data is, like, the save data is crazy. I could hardly believe that. It's just, like, saving, and it's just, like, this chunk of my memory card just disappears. I'm like, oh, well. But anyway, yeah, look out for Sentient now, and by the time you hear this on YouTube or SoundCloud or whatever, it'll be about halfway through, and I think even in episode 3, I beat the game, and then 4, 5, and 6 are how to get other endings. It's a short game, but how to be comprehensive is a whole other story. Otherwise, what you'd expect, I streamed more Sexy Brutale. I'm getting toward the end of the game, so I saved the last couple that needed to be saved, and now I'm on, because every once in a while you have to save, like, 2 people at once. So now
is this like episodic? So it's like you save someone and then you go to the next chapter, or is it
Here's the thing.
Giant world where you're saving people?
Well, no, that's the thing. You do save people and go to the next chapter, but when you save people, you get their powers or whatever, if they had them. But even when you go to the next chapter, you're like, well, now I'll just concentrate on somebody else, although those other people still die. So, like, I'm sure there's going to be a way to undo everything at the very end of the game, and I think that's where I'm going now. But I don't know what exactly it's going to take for me to save everybody, because that's a lot to juggle, unless I nip something in the bud before anything even gets started. Because once everything gets started, I'm going to be having to move around like a machine. Like, stop you, stop you, stop you. And I don't know how, like, for the last couple that I had to save, that took up most of the day, covering different points. So, I don't know. We'll see. But it looks like the plot's coming to a head, so I'm excited. As for Eternal Ring, that shit got ridiculous. The entire last time I streamed was in the secret dungeon, which is at the very, very beginning of the game. But you can't enter it. Like, you can enter the cave where it is, but you can't open the door to the secret dungeon, because to do that, you need to hit the door with a level 1 light or dark spell, and you don't get light or dark anything until considerably later in the game. So I'm kind of near endgame, and then I went with warps all the way back to the beginning. And I tried the secret dungeon out, and that place is no joke. If you want to just dodge everybody and run to the exit, you can mostly get away with that in floors 1 and 2. 3, it's harder because there are choke points where things just hit you with spells. But it can be done. The thing is, don't get hit. Because, like, when I first went in, I was level 35. And the first thing I ran into were little flame rats that deal, like, 10 damage or whatever. Like, I was like, are they secret dungeon flame rats? But no, they're just the same thing in the secret dungeon. And then I see a werewolf, and I'm like, well, the first werewolf I ever saw was a boss, but he was, like, at the beginning of the game. And then the second time I saw a werewolf, it was before the dungeon I'm currently at, so he was actually able to hurt me. And then this werewolf, like, just one-shot me. I was like, oh, if I had had full health, I think he would have two-shotted me. I was just like, geez.
So
like,
was he harder than the other werewolves you fought then? Or were the other ones hard too?
Well, here's the thing. Well, the first one was a boss, so I had to just circle, strafe, and poke him. The other the others weren't so bad, I just hit them with spells. This one, it's genuinely hard to say how hard it was to kill him, because I didn't really do it properly. See, I didn't have a dark spell to open the door. I used a light spell, and the light spell I used was called Divine. And Divine either does absolutely nothing if an enemy has protection against light of any kind, but if the enemy does not have protection against light, then it just kills them. So it's one of those. So the werewolf ran at me, and I popped him, and he's just dead. So I'm like, well, so I was using...
It's like the instant kills in the Mega 10 games.
Exactly. It's either an instant kill or it's worthless. So you hit something once and you'll find out. Even like the very first boss in the game, which is a joke now, but now there are secret dungeon versions of those. Even those, I just kill them. It's like, well, okay. So that's the first floor. The second floor is scary because it's kind of a maze, and some enemies are invisible, but it's not terrible, even if you just want to run around. Enemies? Yeah, it's bullshit. You can usually tell where they are because the only enemies that are invisible either let off gas or have fires on them, so you can kind of tell where they are, but it's still a little disorienting. The third floor is...
They're invisible.
Basically. The third floor is really wide open, except for little narrow tunnels that connect the wide open areas, and that's where you can get hit with like poison and stuff by annoying little just frustrating monsters that you met way earlier in the game, but are now they just now have higher HP. The fourth floor is the last one, and every enemy in that floor, except for the boss, is optional. Like, it's just a straightaway to the boss, except that there are some side pockets that you can go into if you choose to fight things. But there are 2 pockets that I wanted, and in those pockets, I got 2 unique drops. So this is important. I had the best sword at the time equipped, and I had an attack of 77. With each new sword you get, your attack goes up by like 5 or like a 4 to 7. You know, like it goes up by a few points, but each point does kind of count for a lot. Like, you can tell that you're stronger when you have a new sword. So at this point, my attack was 77. And I killed one particular enemy, and it dropped something called the Kaiser Knuckle. And it's a knuckle item. It's like brass knuckles, so my range goes to hell. And it also reduced all of my magic stats by 20 to 30, which is a big...
Wow.
But my attack went up by 70. It basically doubled. That's like the dumbest shit. Like, it's like hilarious.
You have no range, but you punch...
Yeah, but if you ever do hit anything, it dies.
You're now One Punch Man.
Kind of, except for like the boss, obviously. And even by this point in the dungeon, I'm probably 2 or 3 shotting things. So like, this is like stupidly powerful. So then I fight the boss, and I die like 100 times. And the problem is there's no save points in the dungeon, so every time I die, I have to redo the entire dungeon. So it got to the point where I just like run past everything. I got to the point where I could get up to that boss in 7 to 10 minutes. But it was still a bitch, because I was doing this a lot on stream. Like, a lot. But the other unique drop I got was called Animate Sword. The description sounds cooler than it looks, but its function is amazing. Because it's like, oh, there's an animated sword that like flies by you like in Dungeons & Dragons. I'm like, really? And it's like, no, but the effect it has is that normally when you press the attack button, like not the cast spell button, but the hit with a sword button, you kind of go like, huh, and you do like a stab or a slow slash. But with this, you press the button once and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, like at about that speed, which is insanely fast for Eternal Ring. Like, Eternal Ring is not a fast game if you're playing it normally. And going like 1, 2, 3, 4, like that is blinding speed in a game like this. So it's great because number 1, you can hit somebody 4 times, you know, at once. But number 2, you're allowed to be a little sloppier with your timing of your attack. You could just press the attack button and then just run into a guy, and the game is just swinging for you. And I needed to do that for the boss. This boss was terrifying. It actually was not bad if it were by itself, but it was surrounded by 4 ghost enemies. Ghosts you can usually take down with magic spells, but this particular boss seemed to have some anti-magic field thing going along, where like I could heal myself, but I don't think I could really hit anything with magic. And the ghosts shoot like lightning bolts that you have to constantly be moving or you'll get hit. And at this point in the game, the secret dungeon ghosts, they're doing like 200 health per hit, which means they'll like 3 or 4 shot me, and there's 4 ghosts. And the boss, if he ever connects with a sword, 1-shots me. Technically, he also seals my magic, but who cares? I'm dead if he hits me, so just don't get hit ever. So I am constantly, like endlessly, to the point where my left hand is starting to cramp, circle strafing the boss with the D-pad, and trying to run in when he misses a swing and press the attack button, and it's exhausting. And I'm circle strafing constantly, so I don't get lightninged in all 4 cardinal directions. It's horrible. And I died about 1,000,000 times. I eventually took the guy down using the Kaiser Knuckle and using a spell, which is my level 1 fire summon, where these 2 flaming swords hit him. But more importantly, he kind of freezes when that happens. So I was like, oh, he's frozen! 1, 2, 3 in the back, and then get the hell out before a ghost shoots me. Like, the ghosts were the real threats, because I just could not fight them properly. When the boss died, he dropped the Eternal Sword, which is the best item in the game. The Kaiser Knuckle has stupid attack power, like I said, and the Eternal Sword only increases your power by 5. So I went from 77 to 82, but it increases each element from 20 to 30. So, like, Eternal Ring is kind of all about your elemental attributes. Like, the Kaiser Knuckle is the YOLO weapon, but the Eternal Sword is the actual, you're the best weapon. And with Animate Sword on, like, it was amazing. Like, to put things into perspective, after I got the sword and left the dungeon and saved, I went back into the dungeon to actually try fighting everything, and I was just murdering everything, including those fucking ghosts. Apparently I was able to one-shot them. I was like, what? It was amazing.
Is there anything to do after getting the Eternal Sword? Because, like, that's one thing that I hate about some games, where, like, the best weapon in the game you get from beating the hardest boss, like, all right, I beat it, now there's no reason for me to have actually gotten this thing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Now that I'm going to try beating the game, I'm just going to kind of breeze through everything. So I guess we'll see how it is. But I do have, like, a couple dungeons left, so I look forward to doing that. But what was satisfying, though, is that now I have this sword. Like, I've been playing this game this entire time, and I was up to level 35 before starting the dungeon. After I beat the dungeon, which took, like, about 40 minutes worth of streaming, including boss fights. So if you discount my deaths, let's say the dungeon took, like, 20-25 minutes, I went up by, like, something like 9 levels. I went up to, like, 43. And then when I did my victory lap in the dungeon, like, I think I lost a particular drop, like a magic ring, which only is really a big deal if you're a completionist, but it kind of pissed me off. But I went back in the dungeon to look for it, and I did some grinding of just basic enemies dropping stat boosters. In about 50 minutes, I leveled up 12 more times. These guys give stupid amounts of experience. So I'm level 55 now. So 35 is about where I should be in the story. Now I'm 55 with bullshit equipment and stats. Like, I do not expect to die again. Unless I, like, fall into lava or something. So that was quite a satisfying experience. I very much looking forward to getting back to both the Sexy Brutale and Eternal Ring, because we're really getting to the end point of both. But that's been my week. So how about you, Vice?
So I played a lot of quick stuff, as I have been lately, just because of my commute now to Pennsylvania. I work around an hour and 15 minutes away from where I live now, so it's a big change. What's up?
By drive?
Yeah, by driving. So it takes more time, more of my free time out of my day than it used to. Plus, I don't have a lot of my from those of you who have been listening for a while now. I moved in with my girlfriend, and because I moved, I don't have everything all set up quite yet. I just, when I get home, I don't feel like setting up all my components. It's just one of those things. So I pretty much have been playing a lot of portable games in the last couple weeks. A couple of them being the Switch has just been like blowing it out of the park with shmups. I don't know if you guys have been following it, but I don't
have one, so I really haven't.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I know you, Pyro, like shmups a lot too.
Yes.
But I'm like really, really into them, and it's been like a treasure trove of awesome classic shmups that have hardly ever gotten like ports, or like very rarely have gotten ports, or have very obscure ports, that kind of thing. So I'm like really happy to have gotten it.
Nice.
So the big company that has been releasing a lot of like, they almost release like a game or two every single week, which is phenomenal output. is a company called Zero Div, and they have acquired all of the games from a company called Siccio, who made a bunch of games back in the late 90s. So like the best era of shmups, basically. So there have been some really awesome ports of like old games that didn't get like a good port, or barely got anything. And I've been playing. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Strikers 1945 games.
Yep.
So, Lotus, you would know this from, that is the shmup I was playing while we were at Con Bravo, and everybody was playing Windjammers.
Oh, that one. Okay, yeah.
So it basically looks like 1942.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like an homage to it. But there's also mechs that you fight at the end of each level. It's over-the-top mechs, and it has some beautiful pixel art. So Siccio made those games. There are 3 of them. Well, 4 technically, but 3. There's a remake of one of the games that they also made for the Neo Geo. So they have released 2 of those games. They've released the original Gunbird, which is a really good, it's a kind of like a cute, more simplistic shmup, but it's a lot of fun. And they released Zero Gunner 2, which is a really good game that was on the Dreamcast. One of the last games that Siccio have released. And they recently just released Samurai Aces, which was a game that they had been planning for a while, and it's one of Siccio's most popular shooters. It's one that takes place in feudal Japan, so it's a lot of fun. It has a lot of really cool sprite artwork and a lot of really neat bad guys and stuff like that. So I've been having fun playing all of those. The ports are really great, and they look really good and have a lot of options. So I'm really glad that I bought them. I've also bought a couple 3DS games that have been recently released, because I have a feeling that they're going to be harder and harder to find, because the 3DS is gonna start going by the wayside pretty soon.
Yeah, I have a feeling it might.
So like any of the good to decent games, or games that have like any ties to any series that I like, I'm gonna pick up. So because for fear of like, hey, when I finally get around to wanting to play these, I'm never gonna find them.
When you're retired and have all the time in the world, you'll play all the games that you
there
want.
we go.
That's true. My pile of games, and then I'll be suffering from Alzheimer's, and I'll be like, it's not fair.
Well, I was thinking the opposite.
There was time now.
No, I was thinking the opposite. If you're suffering from Alzheimer's, but like you play all the shit you've already played, and you're like, oh, I haven't played this one before.
But anyway, I don't mean to diminish that. A lot of my family has been suffered from that disease, so don't think I'm making light of it.
Yeah, same with mine, actually.
Yeah, but included in that, I got the Hey Pikmin game a little while ago. I don't think I mentioned it, so that's like the 4th Pikmin game.
Yeah, that was a 3DS title, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And this week I picked up Kirby Battle Royale, because I like the Kirby games.
What kind of game is that? Do you know?
So, that's a good question. So I played a little bit of it, and I've been having fun with it, but it's a little easy at the moment. It's basically an arena fighting game. So
it's actually a battle royale.
Yeah, no, it is, but it also has a lot of different types of play. So far, I played it where you basically just fight 3 other Kirbys. And they can mix match their powers. You go in and you pick a loadout, essentially. You pick which power you want to be in there with. So they start you off
so it's like Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's exactly like
kind of is, actually.
So you go in there and you choose which Kirby you want to be. They start you off with Sword Power Kirby, and then they give you Bomb Kirby and then Beetle Kirby. And you fight other Kirbys that have those powers, and you can play it in multiplayer, like online, that kind of thing, or you could play like the single player mode, which has a progression to it. So I've been having fun. That's the normal. That's like the showcase game. But then there's another game where you attack Wispy Woods, and
okay.
He has the tree.
Yeah, the tree that blows you away. Like I first saw that in like
the tree that blows.
Yeah, I first saw that in the original Super Smash Brothers because I didn't really play Kirby games.
Yeah. So he has apples in his tree, in his branches, and you have to knock them down, and you have to pick up the apples and dump them in a chute. And while you're doing that, another Kirby or another team of Kirbys, while you have a computer-controlled teammate, will be doing the same thing. So it's your job to collect them and also like fuck with the other guy while they're trying to collect apples.
It sounds almost like a Mario Party minigame.
Yeah, it's actually brought that to my mind too. So it's a lot of fun. I think it would be even better if it were a Switch game. Like I don't know why they didn't make it a Switch game, because it would be a lot of fun. Multiplayer, in the same room. And then the other one that I've uncovered so far, there are probably other game types, but another one where you have to collect the most coins, and it's kind of like has almost like a Pac-Man element. Like there are lines of coins that go around and you have to avoid ghosts. It's kind of very similar to Pac-Man. But you can also fight the other guys while they're doing that. So it's pretty fun. I'm enjoying that. And I also picked up the new remake of Radiant Historia. It's called Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology. It is a remake of the DS game, Radiant Historia.
I heard Radiant Historia is really good, and I've been meaning to pick it up. Does this game just add stuff?
Yes, so okay. It is a remake. It adds like a whole other big part of the game. So it is worth buying.
If I'm going to get one, I should get this one.
It's the definitive version. That's why I think it's called Perfect Chronology. So it's the definitive version. You wouldn't buy the old one at this point. It replaces the other one, but I haven't had a chance to play it. I also wanted to bring up the fact that Lotus here had gotten me a present, and I finally received it. It is, so the other guys could see it. It is the Windjammers Special Edition.
Nice.
The collector's edition. I absolutely love this. They did a great job dressing it up.
Yeah, it is a sexy package.
It's really cool. It comes with a real Windjammers frisbee. It's even frisbee, it's even like a real frisbee.
Oh, it's actually made by Frisbee. It's not a novelty flying disc.
No. And I also love the fact that the cover has every character in the game, including the line judge and the dog.
That's pretty great.
That you could play as in the special games. So I thought that was pretty funny. Just quick couple little things. I did an 80s escape room thing with my girlfriend and her friends today, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of the
what made it 80s?
A lot of the setting. So the first room that you go into is a video rental store. And a lot of the clues are given to you in the videos.
Cool.
So, some of the videos, the vast majority of the videos are all bundled up, so you can't like take the tape out. Mm-hmm. But some of them you can, and those ones clever. Are the ones that have clues on them, and you play them in a VCR. And it was a lot of fun. It was a blast. And then the second one's a travel agency, and in there was a Commodore 64 set up. And it actually has like a program running on the Commodore 64 where you have to get the clue from it by entering in like a log on. And it was really fun. And then the third one was like a toy store. And then the fourth one was like it was just really fun. It was a blast.
You should tell me where this is. Not that I go to Philly that often, but I might want to check it out.
It was on Passyunk Avenue. It was a lot of fun. I wouldn't mind doing it again, or getting a group together to do it because it was a blast.
It's been a long time since I've done an escape room. I would love to do another one of those.
Absolutely. And the last thing is with my girlfriend we watched the Cloverfield Paradox. So I really liked the first two Cloverfield movies. I really like the second one. I still think the second one's the best.
I haven't seen either of them yet.
Oh, okay. I would say that if you wanted to, probably the second one is a good place to start. I love the second one.
Yeah, I heard the second one was amazing. 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah, it's really, really good. The first one is really great, especially, like, you like kaiju movies, so you'll like it.
Yeah.
But it definitely felt best in the theater. Like, watching it at home is not quite the same because of the scale of things was a big part of that movie, and what made it so good. So I recommend watching both of them, but all three of them, because I saw the third one, and opinions are kind of divisive about that.
Yeah, I was reading that.
Yeah,
like,
I heard it was
a good amount of people thought it was like not that great.
So I hear some people are saying it's good, and some people are saying eh. But I actually really liked it. We both did. So here's the thing. It's basically turning... the Cloverfield series is basically turning into an anthology series, where it's kind of like the Twilight Zone. You expect something weird to happen towards the end.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, I mean, I think the series would be better served as, like, a 1 hour episode. Is released
instead of, like, a 2 hour movie.
Well, I don't think it's bad that they're a 2 hour movie. I just think people's expectations are would be better if it was a 1 hour thing. Like, if this was a TV show, people would like it and move on. They wouldn't complain about it. But since it's a movie, they expect more out of it. You know what I mean? They expect it to be more epic. But I thought the third one was great. I enjoyed it, and it definitely feels like an Outer Limits episode or a Twilight Zone episode, and it just kind of had a fun little ending to it. Of course, I'm not going to ruin it, but like, it's like, oh man.
Yeah, like, that's the one part I saw. I saw a clip, and it's pretty visually striking.
Yeah. So I would definitely watch it. I think. Pyro, you would like the series.
Okay. In general. I didn't mean to check it out.
The second one is definitely the best. Just the acting in it is phenomenal. And it has probably my favorite. Just the way that it progresses is structured is fantastic. So I definitely recommend it. We should move on to questions, though.
Sure.
I should remind everybody that you should keep us supplied with more questions. We're running low.
Yeah, we only have 4 questions left, actually, on the back burner, and what I'm about to ask is one of them. So, we have one from Fakafon. Do you think some games have mechanics that work against itself, like the game itself, or the player? For example, in Final Fantasy II, the 4th party member constantly rotates, which takes away the equipment you gave them and leaves you with a weaker ally. So, like, you'd have to know the game in advance to, like, unequip them, or else you just lose your stuff. Or, in Resident Evil 1, the original version of Resident Evil 1, there was no auto-aim. And it's like, dude, come on. In real life, if there were a zombie coming at you, you'd aim at the damn zombie. So what is this all about? You know, like that kind of thing. So, like it says, no one is stupid enough to aim at a door when the zombie's coming from the left, And it also makes it more difficult to know if a zombie's truly dead once they're on the floor. So can you think of some game mechanics that work against the game like that? Like, for the losing equipment, I'm thinking, like, Stone Keep, because you'll have the good Stone Keep, because, like, there's, like, a party member who's like, well, I'm leaving, and he just takes his stuff, and you're like, dude... I found that stuff.
Just equipped you.
Yeah, come on.
I would say that most roguelikes are like this. They kind of hate you. They kind of want you to deal with problems. You know what I mean? Like a lot of games are meant for you to falter when you play them like that. Like Faster Than Light is one of the ones that I'm thinking of right now. FTL. That's what immediately comes to mind.
I was thinking that, like, of games where the mechanics... Like, so I'm actually going to say Rayman Legends. There's one part of it. So Rayman himself is a little goofy. So I can see how he can be floaty just because like he's a crazy person. But when I hold the run button and move the remote a little bit, he not only has a little wind up, but he slides a little, which is really hard for a platformer where the timing of the jumps and like how like perfect you need to be for some jumps is really important. So that's one annoying thing. Like that sometimes I feel that I'm not the bad player, but the controls are wonky a little bit, and that's kind of a thing that I'm thinking about.
Regarding jumps, I mean, even though this is how things would work in real life, that makes me think of Ghouls and Ghosts, where like you better know exactly how your jump's gonna work before you jump, as opposed to other games where you can defy physics and shift your course as you go. But with Arthur, it's just like, nope, that's where you're going.
The original Bionic Commando's like that too. Like, everything must be very deliberate.
Yeah, because you can't jump. By the way, this is actually the exact anecdote I brought up last week, so I'll be really hasty with it this time. But Baten Kaido's a save system, because like any game that has a point of no return where you don't know it's a point of no return, or any games with any games with missable items, just drives me crazy. But with Baten Kaido's, there's lots of missable items. But also, there's that one again, I'll be quick, but there's that one dungeon you go into where the only save point there is the kind that does not let you level up, because you level up at save points. So I hope you were ready to beat the boss of this dungeon before you even enter the dungeon, because grinding in the dungeon is straight up impossible. Get all the experience you want, but you can't level up until you're out and you find a level up save point. That made me reset my entire game. Like, I was like, I'm not ready for this, and I can't beat this. I had to like, start a new file. It pissed me off.
I wish I had more games off the top of my head, but it's interesting to think about this because, I mean, I don't consider myself a game designer, but I like to think that I've played enough games and that I've thought about it enough that I notice things that whenever games have poor design, I notice it, and it irks me more than if I didn't know about it, like didn't think about it, because
it's the ignorance is bliss arguments. Like now that you're so well cultured, like you start seeing things that anyone else would be like, dude, like chill out. Like and now you look all pretentious, and you're like, but I'm sorry, they're flaws.
And I think because I've programmed too, so I know what a little bit more that like what's in the capability of these things, like what might seem rushed, what might seem like they didn't actually plan it or test it well enough. And when there are little, and I think the difference too is between games back then and games now. Like when you think about it, Final Fantasy II came out a long time ago. Resident Evil 1 came out a decent amount of time ago too.
Yeah,
these are things that they might not have thought about, but nowadays a lot of games are looking more towards quality of life too. Like they want the games to feel like, there might be games that are hard because it makes sense for the atmosphere. Yeah. But like for instance, if you think of the newest Monster Hunter, a lot of the things that kind of like having infinite whetstones doesn't make sense, but if you're going to just go buy them anyway, it really doesn't matter.
That's the thing. The game's hard, but let's make it playable without having to go through tedium between levels for no really good reason. And by the way, speaking of which, like I don't know how much this counts as a game mechanic, but in the year 2017, 2018, unskippable cutscenes, really with this?
Yeah.
I beat the game. Like, could you imagine if Metal Gear Solid pulled that shit? Like, oh, I want to play a second game to unlock stuff. Oh, whoops, I'm playing Metal Gear Solid 2, and this is the part where the fucking 80-minute cutscene happens. Like, whoo! Like, I mean, unskippable cutscenes are never that long, but, like Heavenly Sword, that had some genuinely difficult bosses, and I kept dying, and I kept watching the freaking cutscene, which is, like, a minute long. I'm like, oh my god, it's so frustrating.
You start mouthing the words.
Oh my god, yeah, kind of. Like, oh, your father's, like, over there. In pieces, ha ha ha. I'm like, shut up. What's his name? Flying Fox. Flying Fox is, like, my favorite character in that game, and he was pissing me off.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Saga games are generally hateful. But
yes.
I think that's because... and so is the original Final Fantasy II as a result. I don't know whether that question is in regards to the original Final Fantasy II.
I'm thinking about it, and it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
So the Saga games are descendant from Final Fantasy II in particular because they're made by the same guy, Kwazu.
Yeah, to the degree that the Saga games are called, well, some are called, were named Final Fantasy Legend on the Game Boy.
Yeah. Well, that was like a marketing thing.
It was, but like it's funny that they're still kind of close.
Yeah. So, the reasoning behind that was that like the designer really liked D&D, and he wanted the feeling of like a world that was trying to kill you constantly, but as a result, like a lot, there's not enough warmth in it either.
Yeah, D&D is too good at killing you constantly.
Yeah.
Well, it really all depends on the GM, but I know
that is true. But like my favorite example though is like I think we've discussed this before is mimics, because whenever you picture mimics, they're the treasure chests that come alive and they're varying degrees of scary. The only example I can think of, the only examples I can think of mimics that were not chests were, of all things in the world, in Mario games, the piano in Mario 64, and the doors that weren't actually doors in Luigi's Mansion. That when you try opening them, they just like smack you in the face.
Yeah.
But D&D would pull that shit all the time. Like, you walk in a room, you take 10 damage. Like, why? The floor was a mimic. Like, fuck you! Like it was ridiculous.
That's like a Symmetry and Odyssey bullshit.
Yeah, there were like stalactites that had eyes on them. Oh, the stalactites are mimics. Like, what do they hunt other than dungeoneers? Like, I don't
D&D, even though they may have introduced the idea of mimics, which is a good idea for chests, but they took it too far. There's ceiling mimics, there's wall mimics, there's a mimic that's a house. You can walk in the house.
Yeah, there was. I remember that. There were. Well, I don't know if this quite counts as a mimic, but I have one of the Ravenloft monster manuals, and they had animators. So they weren't exactly mimics, but they were ghosts that would possess objects, so they were basically mimics. And there were like lesser, regular, and greater. And the greater ones, like the picture on the greater animator looked like, this is an oddly specific reference, but it looked like the picture that was in some editions of the Dark Tower 2, I think, where like that house was alive and had like a mouth and everything.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like a greater animator was basically that. And it's like, nope, like not dealing with this.
That was actually in the Dark Tower movie too, that house.
Oh, no kidding. Nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, does anybody have any final remarks on that question?
Nope.
Okay.
No, that's probably it.
All right. Well, then that's the show for this week. I want to thank our fans that contributed questions, and keep them coming, guys. We're getting low here, so
3 left.
Throw a couple.
Yeah.
If you have an idea for one, give us a couple. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting your questions of your own on the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursdays on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth podcast about this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as VyseTheBold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, and Battle.net.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can catch me on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, or even selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me as PyroJackFrost on Battle.net, Steam, and Cloudroid540 on PSN, which now apparently they might be doing name changes soon, so I might change that to PyroJackFrost. So
yeah, there we go.
One name you can find me as. But yeah, it's either PyroJackFrost or Cloudroid540 on most gaming platforms.
Or you could just change it to Lotus Prince.
Yeah, you should probably change it to Lotus Prince.
Yeah. And then we can all just be Lotus Prince. Lotus Prince, Lotus Prince, and Lotus Prince.
Perfect.
All right, guys. See you on Thursday.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.